Hi everyone, this is Leonora. Today I want to talk a little bit about emotional expression and particularly cathartic emotional expression. You know, the question that comes is whether the cathartic expression is healing or not. And the answer is not so simple. It can be, but it can also be re-traumatizing. And how do I know the difference? So, you know, repressed expression creates blockages in the body, which can lead to disease. So it's really an important topic. And often when highly charged emotional events happen, our nervous system can become overwhelmed if we're not resourced internally or externally. And it's that overwhelm that splits off, and it splits off into a separate sense of self. And that sense of self is kind of like a protection from the emotion. So, you know, the task of whether cathartic expression is healing or not is kind of dependent upon, you know, whether the one with the wound is included in the process. Let me explain that in a different way. So sometimes I'm sure I'm going to talk about it as sadness, but it could just as well apply to anger or any other challenging emotion. But for example, if you feel sad and you might naturally cry, and the crying, you know, is a kind of biochemical response in the body that can actually relieve the sadness and take you through it. And so in that way, it's healing. So, you know, having a good cry is a good thing. In another example, if you're in a workshop space, for example, or with a therapist, and the focus is on having a good cry, there can be an unconscious retraumatization because firstly, there's an agenda to have a good cry. And secondly, somebody's watching me have a good cry, and I might not notice the part of me that's split off that's catharting through the crying. And so in that, I'm actually becoming more and more identified potentially with my sadness. And this is what could be called re-traumatizing. So in the way that I like to work when people touch into experiences of sadness or any other emotion is to allow the natural expression of that emotion, but at the same time, through practice, to be present to the felt sense experience of, for example, where sadness is in the body. How does sadness feel directly through feeling it in the felt sense of the body? Now, when I make contact with that vibration within the felt sense, I can do that and cry at the same time. But what's actually happening is that I'm entering the field, and in so doing, I can unravel the sadness. So often, you know, what triggers someone's sadness may have its roots in the past. So I know some can relate to this, but we either cry or not cry because it feels like the bucket will never empty out, that there's just so much sadness there. And so we resist feeling the sadness. But when we can actually tap into that vibration, we actually have a potential to heal sadness back to its deepest origin. So I always tell people there's only one trauma, and that's the abandonment of yourself, or the leaving of yourself, the disconnect, the separation. So if I got overwhelmed with sadness and I split off, that I'm required to return to the sadness to feel it, and then notice the one who is wounded, the I who is sad. So when you say, I am sad, in a relativistic sense, there's an I, me, and an expression, sadness. There's the object, the subject-object duality. So to really heal it, we want to transmute alchemically through direct connection the felt sense experience of sadness in the body. And then we want to be able to notice the sense of I, the I that's sad, and to make contact with the unique vibration of that one, because that one is entangled with the ongoing creation of sadness. It's entangled with an old experience that wasn't resolved. So really to enable that, it takes a little practice, but you know, it can be quite quick for some, it can take a little while for others. It's really very personal as to how you go. But the practice to enable that is really this alignment to own your life, to own yourself. I call it heart-centered sovereignty. And to get into that, there's a practice of feeling the felt sense, which is your field of awareness. I often refer to it as a bubble. It's a toroidal field, which is you. And that is what you're responsible for. And the contents of that field, which includes sadness and the sense of self, the one who's sad, are available and often triggered by external circumstances. But everything is in that field. Some of it is conscious and some of it is unconscious. So the practice of heart-centered sovereignty is about the reconnection. It's about reversing the habit of disconnect. And it's about resolving things at the root or the cause. So I hope you found this valuable. And if you want to know more about heart-centered sovereignty, there are some videos on that topic. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.